Being 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will. See if we can get it to work, huh? Approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second that move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from last week?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from last week.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, yeah, there's nothing on it, nothing on it, just they want us to sign it. Yeah, okay, don't bother.
Okay. Public comment period. Reminder, no personal attacks are allowed. Anybody wish to address the public?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Chemical from Caledonia. Today I have before you petitions from 453 Houston County residents. I'll turn them over. Calling on you, the Board of Commissioners, to ban frac sand mining in Houston County. These signatures were collected by a few of us last summer in a short period of time, mostly by going from door to door and also at the county fair booth. Between 60 and 70% of the people we talked to signed this petition with no arm twisting. This high percentage of people who want you to act responsibly as elected officials to protect our county from the destruction of frac sand mining parallels the result of a poll done by an independent polling firm last year that found that over 60% of the residents of southeast Minnesota want frac sand mining banned from our area. You commissioners, as a majority, are currently out of step with what most people in Houston County want. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will take it under consideration. Anybody else wish to address the public?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ken Jumper from La Crescent Township. I think it's really unmistakable and clear that a large majority of residents in Houston County are opposed to frac sand mining and do not want you to allow it here. Yet yesterday, the Frac Sand Study Committee finished its draft that will allow frac sand mining. Given that a majority of the members were pro-frac sand mining, the results of their work should be no surprise. It's clear why they have been so secretive about it. Essentially, their draft report will allow unlimited frac sand mining in our county for the next 50 years, with no monitoring of air quality, water quality, or damage to roads. As you commissioners know, especially you, Chairperson Walter, the threat of frac sand mining exploding in Houston County next year is real and imminent. 5 frac sand mines are already proposed for along Highway 16 in Houston County. A railroad loading facility is proposed for Miller's Corner. Highway 16 essentially will become a frac sand mining corridor with a convoy of hundreds of trucks each day making round trips. And that's just the beginning. A company called CRP Sands is currently in the process of buying the mineral rights of hundreds of acres of land located near Highway 16 in the Rit River Valley in expectation of your caving into the mining interest in Houston County. I will say this again. Under Minnesota law, you could legally prohibit frac sand mining. Commissioners, you are failing to protect the people of Houston County from this frac sand mining disaster. You are doing a gross disservice to the people of this county that will negatively impact all of us for the next 50 years. Thank you.
Brian Van Gorp, Yucatan Township. And yes, I did say I would not address this board again, but that was before 3 Houston County employees tried to silence me. Now the greater good demands that I stand up and speak out. I will not surrender my civil rights. When you think about not banning frac sand mining, think about this. The Erickson mine has cost tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and caused multiple lawsuits both for the county and individual citizens. Take that times the number of permits that will be applied for, and you start to see the chaos you will create. There is no chance that whatever ordinance you pass attempting to regulate mining will be enforced. Planning and zoning has proven incapable of enforcement. The only way an action would occur is if someone stepped forward to complain about illegal activity. We all know what happens to whistleblowers in Houston County. They get punished. I can prove that. If you don't want to get sued by industry, ban it. If you allow frac sand mining, the lawsuits will start. Why does so-and-so get a permit, but I don't? Why is X amount allowed, but not 2X? That's arbitrary and not based on research. If this had been banned on day one, this whole fiasco would never have occurred. All the expense and conflict could have been avoided by simply having the courage to say no. Other counties, cities, states have done it. We ban all kinds of things based on end use. Alcohol can be sold to adults, but not minors. Sex between consenting adults is okay, not rape. Bullets are okay if shot at deer, but not at people. This is not radical. Allowing our county to engage, to degrade, so that climate change can be accelerated. That's radical.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sue Van Gorp. I live in Yucatan Township. After 27 years of observing human nature as a psychiatric nurse, I have found the following to be true. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Planning and zoning has not enforced existing ordinances, so what makes you think they will do so now? What is your plan to change this unacceptable behavior and miscarriage of justice? The only way to assure that the past does not repeat itself is to ban frac sand mining in Houston County.
I'm Robin Shumper from La Crescent Township. Earlier this year, you tasked the Frac Sand Study Committee with writing an ordinance prohibiting frac sand mining, along with a restrictive order. I understand now that the draft of the so-called restrictive order is done and has been submitted to your attorney, Jay Squires. I ask you, where is the draft that prohibits frac sand mining? By ignoring your own directive to write a ban, you have shown the entire county that you don't care about our drinking water, safe roads, clean air, and scenic beauty. We all know, and Mr. Scanlon admits, that Houston County doesn't have the staffing to monitor mines or enforce the regulations. In today's La Crosse Tribune, there's an article about a frac sand mine in Trempealeau County that was fined $80,000 for polluting the storm drains. That you would put the mining interests over the entire county's health and well-being is shameful.
My name is Steve Hartwick. I'm from Money Creek Township. I see on the legals that this Thursday there's going to be an after-the-fact variance hearing in planning and zoning, and I'm concerned about what kind of precedent this sets for people coming after this. That I just don't think it's a very good policy to have. I know it's just a pole shed, and I don't have anything personally against the person who's building it. It just seems that as a policy factor, it's a bad precedent. And when I was out working, having the ban petitions being signed for, the major topic that was brought up was how the economics and the enforcement effectiveness were going to be. if we didn't have a ban, and how much it's gonna cost to add staff to enforce this. And what's happening over in Wisconsin, if you're paying attention, is they're flaunting the violations there. For them, it's just a cost of doing business, and I don't want to see that happen in Houston County. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yvonne Krogstad, Caledonia Township. I'm actually here for two reasons. One being in support of the ban on frac sand mining in the county. But the other reason is, in case you didn't know, I wanted to bring to your attention that the former railroad construction building will be auctioned off Friday morning, October 25th. And if it fits the needs, and I emphasize the word needs, of the county highway department, it may be one way to save taxpayer money. And I'll give you the copy of this.
I think we already have that,
We have
and we
that
have
copy.
somebody coming to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Is Tess here?
Yep, she is.
All right, Tess, you're,
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Just a brief item here dealing with facilities. I'm requesting that and recommending that we enter a contract with Schumacher Elevator Company for a 5-year contract beginning in November 1 through 2014 through October 31st of 2017. This is a contract for all 3 of our elevators for inspection and maintenance. And we requested quotes from 3 very reputable firms that are nationally known. 2 responded, and this was, of course, the lowest quote. It's for $4,015.80 per year. We earn a 3% discount by paying it once a year in advance. And so with that in mind, I would recommending that we go forth with this agreement.
I think we all got copies of that.
We do. Can't be without it, I guess. Move to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
In case I forget, I'm supposed to take that gambling thing back.
Oh, yep, sounds good.
I'll need to make a copy of it first.
Okay. Tess, are you gonna bring up the Tim? Thank you. I'm just not thinking about this. We have a 67-day employee, I'm sorry, I don't have to
That's
remind you
okay.
the name.
Bonnie Felton.
Bonnie Felton, who's already working in the, as a 67-day temporary employee in Human Services. And we would respectfully request that we be permitted to transfer her and use her, if you will, for at least a 2-week period starting on November 27th in the auditor's office. Shar and the auditor and the director for human services and myself have discussed this, as well as we've talked it over with Ms. Felton. And it seems like a very good solution, as we recently reassigned an employee in the auditor's office to the Department of Corrections subsequent to a competitive search at that time. So, being that this is a very difficult, from a work perspective, volume-wise, for the auditor's office, I think this one is very much needed. So,
I'd like a motion or just a consensus?
Yes, if you would give it, I mean, I'd like the 2 weeks around election, the week before, the week after, and then if I could have
authorization for possibly a couple floater days if we need them.
Yeah.
Because we do have a few things coming up election related yet, a few weeks after the election, where I may need some help.
From my human resources perspective, that was just for your information. We would like the ability to assign her as we need her between the two offices up to the statutory period. Is what we're requesting.
And then does
Without
Linda,
assigning very
do
specific
the
days.
directors from each department, or the department heads then decide, or does it have to go?
No,
They
it's,
just work
We're
it
in
out?
agreement to work it
Okay,
out.
good.
so I don't want to be too rigid about that because
Okay.
it's going to be based on need, and it's not a guarantee to the individual of any one day or another. So it's based on the need of the department.
And Linda obviously has enough of the 67 days to give up that it's not an issue.
About 30.
Sure.
Yep. We were very, we're very cautious in our use of, I say cautious, we watch it very closely when we use temporary employees so that we don't escalate our cost. But they do serve an important function for us.
I'll make a motion that we have our 67-day employee work between the two offices as needed.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Plus, you can take these with you. Thank you.
Okay. Human service update. Morning.
Morning.
I can't say we have a very long update, so I don't know, maybe you guys will be done early today. I'd like to start out with just what we've been doing and where we're at. One thing that's pretty important is our grants, especially social service grants, have been coming in, and we've been finalizing quite a few things. We have a couple of mental health grants. First of all, our CSP grant, that's called Community Support Services Program, came through, and that one has been a very steady grant. It's been the same amount since 2012, so 2012, 13, 14, and 15, that's just over, well, $77,507, and we've been awarded that grant every year. So that's good news. Our adult mental health grant, our CREST grant, I don't know what CREST stands for, but it's an acronym. That one we've been getting for years and years as well, and I looked back on the history of that, and anyway, if I go back as far as 2012 through 2014, not counting, there's a bunch of little parts to it, but we've been getting anywhere from $78,000 to $87,000 in those years. And then along with that, we get state-operated services money. And the history of that is, well, once upon a time, apparently Houston County, Wabasha, and Winona all had a state employee here. They quit having the state employee, and then the money kind of just sat out there. We didn't know if we could use it or not for quite a few years. We know now we could have used quite a bit of that money. Anyway, that almost amounted to almost $50,000 a year. But we received the money, and I do believe that not necessarily was it always spent, but we were allowed to keep that money because we did spend enough general mental health money that it all kind of panned out. So the money was always spent. Anyway, in 2015, the directors and along with the state, we were asked to redesign the CREST grant. And with that, quite a few things took place here this past year. One thing that is absorbed in the entire grant now is the state-operated services money. And another thing that has happened is we have now a mobile crisis unit, well, a mobile crisis area where there's an 800 number people can call in if they're having a mental health crisis or whatever it might be. And that is a region-wide effort, so there's money taken away from the CREST grant for that. They also withhold an 11% every year. That's going to be used for ARMS services. What's ARMS stand for? Adult.
rehabilitative mental health services.
Yep, yeah, and that 11% is withheld. There's a possibility we could get some of that
Withheld
back.
from our grant.
Yep, withheld, and they withheld it from all the counties.
All the counties, okay.
And then they also looked at usage for the past years, and they went back to 2011 for usage, 2011, 12, 13, and 14. 2011 and 12, we did not use the grant as much as we should have, although we were allowed to keep the money, and it went to other things that didn't qualify as, SMI? SPMI? Yeah, anyway, but they were mental health dollars spent. So we spent the money, but because it didn't fall under the Crest realm, we ended up, they looked at all the 10 counties in Crest, and they redistributed it. There were 3 of us who took a bump, or a downfall, I will say, in our funding. And then there were 7 counties who gained a little bit more. All in all, we lost $25,000 essentially of that grant, which is too bad. We'll see what happens here. I did, the last couple of days, I did discover that we have to do a little bit different reporting. And so anyway, I think we've been doing better this year spending it. We end up, though, at about $102,645. And I do know by the time we found this out, which happened all and was finalized here in October, I didn't know it was going to be quite so drastic. However, it, of course, is after the first set of budget numbers are turned in. So I can tell you our budget is a little short from what we had thought we were going to get. It nets out that way, and just, I guess, so we're forewarned. I did try to see if we could whittle away, looking at maybe expenses on the other side. Tell you what, just because the revenue doesn't go away doesn't mean the expenses go away. So I hate to, it just has to sit as it is at the moment. You know, I'm not sure what'll happen with the overall county budget by December. We'll see. You know, and it all depends too on a lot of other factors with our county budget. We probably will be just fine overall. We won't have the EDMS implementation next year. We will have ongoing maintenance for it, but much of that's already in the county budget with what we figure it should be. So that's kind of bad news, but it could be worse. I guess I look at it that way. As far as our human services budget in 2014 and where we are with our spending and our revenues right now, we are at 66% of our revenues, and that's a little low, yet historically DHS gives us our money in the fourth quarter, so I'm imagining that will come up. Our expenses are also low, so that is the good news behind that. They are also at about 65%, and that's all as of September 30th. That doesn't count the bills that came in today for you to look at. Even if I would add in the EDMS expenses, overall, the county budget, it only brings us up to 68% of expense. So we're doing extremely well on our county budget. I will say, though, if we want to maintain our CREST funds, we need to spend those first before we spend any of the other mental health dollars. Sounds like a game, and in a way, it is kind of too bad. It's the way the setup with the government is, though. So we kind of need to make that our top priority. The other thing I was going to tell you about our collections and where we're at with that, and I'm mainly talking about estate collections. When a person is, ends up in a nursing home and they end up sometimes not being able to afford it, and then MA kicks in and pays for that. There are times we can go back and collect, there are times we can't. However, our collections are doing really well this year. They're at a pace where, other than the year 2012, we're really probably going to end up the best we've been in collections since we've been monitoring, which is 2006. 2012 was quite an anomaly for a year. We had 2 large farms that ended up being basically turned over to the county and sold. So that year we collected over $500,000, which was amazing. We get 25% of what we collect, and then the state, of course, applies the rest to the MA program, so other people can benefit should they ever have that need. And so that's why collections are important, because what that does is it perpetuates our ability and the state's ability to help people out when they need a place to go They can't take care of themselves anymore.
Are
So-
other counties doing that now? I know we were a leader in 2012, and
Yeah.
they were rather amazed at the potential.
Yeah, yeah. I think other counties are doing it, quite a bit, and maybe have stepped up their pace. Now, I haven't seen a report lately, but yeah, in 2012, we were #1 in the state, which is that's good for our county, but, some of that, it just all depends on how things were set up. So
Right.
it's sort of a windfall. It's not anything we can really count on. And that's how we have to sort of look at that money, too. Other than that, yesterday I went to a SEMCAC Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, and that's I don't know if the rest of the board remembers or not, but I think SEMCAC asked the county board if one of them would like to be on that Transportation Advisory Committee, and I think it went back to Human Services. As it turns out, there are a couple other county human service people there who are financial worker supervisors, Dodge County and Fillmore County. And then there's about 7 or 8 cities represented. All told, I think there's about 10 or 11 counties that are represented at this SEMCAC advisory board. We're still working on, we did decide a mission statement yesterday, and so that's kind of where we're at with that. I think the meetings will slow down tremendously once the basic things are in place, the rules.
Does it include buses?
It does, yeah. There's
taxi service?
The company, the name of the entity that actually drives the buses that go around to cities is called Rolling Hills Transportation.
Okay.
And does that makes sense. Basically, what they want to do is address concerns, policies, and procedures that advocate for the needs and values of the entire service area, and it's as far as transportation goes. I know we've had the SEMCAC bus here for years and years. I know they're big on picking up little kids for preschool, and I know they actually have a lot. The way it sounds, they have a lot of demand to take people to clinic appointments, that kind of thing. However, we're sort of in a funny spot because we live in the corner, and it happens most people from this area go to the doctor in La Crosse or Winona, which is another county. I don't know so how much of that gets utilized, but they need to look at that a little harder. That would be one thing I would advocate for, being on that.
Do they give them rides to La Crosse at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're thrilled doing it or if there's a little bump in the road. They alluded that there are some issues with that, but yeah, but they do.
But they're doing it right now.
Yeah, it's harder for them to get their reimbursement, it sounds like, with MA. Does that sound fair? No, I'm talking on the bus, not the individuals.
That I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they talked a little about that, but yeah, no, the individuals get to go, and that's arranged through SEMCAC, and that works really well. Yeah, so, sounds like we will get to talk about that part of it at the next meeting.
I think it's important that we go to La Crosse,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
even with the construction.
Oh, yeah.
In spite, yeah,
Yeah,
in
definitely.
spite of it.
The other short little update I have is we've had these local collaborative time study meetings that really sort of went dormant before we started them this year. The last time, I think, for that was 2011 as well. There was one meeting. So what has happened with that money, that mainly is school districts who are funded to provide social workers, things like that, for their schools. There was a time, though, before that where there was a lot of money in that local collaborative. And at that time, other entities also participated and received dollars from that. And where we're at the moment is, because it's sort of been so dormant for a while, there are excess funds in there. The last meeting we had, we voted to allow Houton School District and Spring Grove School District go back and collect the money they hadn't collected. And between the two of those school districts, it's almost $60,000 sitting there that was dormant and not being used. In addition to that, the fund balance is pretty large, so there's about, I would say, approximately another $90,000 of excess funds that need to be used. And if they are not used, potentially they could go back to the state of Minnesota. So we all, and this will happen in January, we're going to have a grant form filled out, and we will be deciding upon grants. Other entities such as Human Services used to get money for that. A couple of the things we want, there were two things, Tim, weren't there, that we really are interested in providing. One was in-home.
CTS has skill building for parents, so instead of addressing kids one-on-one, inside an office, somebody would go to the house, work with the parents on how to develop structure skills, things like that for the kids. Another one is supervised visitation would be nice. So if we have kids that are not at home placement, it's a place where kids can be supervised with their parents if their safety concerns. So.
And the other one I thought of was we desperately need new technology in our child-friendly room where we do interviews with little kids. We still have a VCR that works, but it's a VCR and kind of way behind the times. I think there's equipment out there that could work a whole lot better. The room is looking pretty tough, and but the camera still works for a while. So anyway, and we're talking that's expensive too. That would be another project, and indirectly, I think all the schools would benefit from really both of all these projects. So anyway, we'll put our 2 cents in for the extra $90,000 that's sitting there, and I'm sure other people will come forward with what they want to spend that money on as well. So,
So
anyway.
can't we use some of these grant funds that we're losing, that we haven't been using toward the media room, or are they pretty much designated for mental health, that type of deal?
Yep, they are so designated, a lot of these
Watching a
sponsors.
VCR tape could be mental health, though.
Well, yeah, but it's,
When it skips.
well, yeah, and the problem,
No.
like with Crest is adult mental health.
Adult, okay.
And then the interviews are mainly children.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
then they go, you know, you know, if you try and spend money for something it isn't allowed to be really spent for, then you have the danger of losing all your grants.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
being fined, and we don't want to go there. So, yeah.
Have you guys ever put together like something like what you'd really like that room to look like? You know, do you guys talk about what it should look like, and, you know, what could we do to get to that point?
Yeah, and I wrote a grant that was passed on by a different agency recently. It was fairly large, but just kind of a shot in the dark just to see if it would qualify. And then more recently, I've talked with another community kind of church group taking a look at least paint, furniture, that type of thing to kind of help make it a little more child friendly as opposed to kind of what it is now.
Yeah.
And so I've had estimates, I've had ACE out there looking at the equipment, things like that. And so those steps have been taken, I have estimates and all that. And so I'm looking for some outreach, some in-kind donations, things like that, that might help kind of at least spruce up a little bit and make it a little better than it is now.
You know, Healthy Community Partnerships and the Crescent might be a good group to talk to too, because they have a lot of different connections in the community for getting things too. It's a really good program.
Say it again, Healthy.
Healthy Community Partners.
Do you know somebody who belongs?
Me.
Okay.
But I mean, I go for it, but it's really, they've got a lot of information, and it kind of branches the, Neighbors in Action comes off of, is one of the branches of that group.
That's great. That's what I have.
Just biggest thing right now is we're still working through MNsure. We currently do have 526 MNsure cases, and that's between cases that were assigned through MNsure, and then we've got the interim medical assistance cases, which are the Minnesota Care cases that are just kind of waiting to be converted over. So we're in charge of both of those. We've not been given any guidance on when phase 3 and 4 starts back up again. They kind of put that on hold in preparation for open enrollment, which starts on November 15th. We still don't know how that's going to look yet, so hopefully soon we'll get some indication from the state on what that's going to look like and mean for the counties. We are currently starting to prepare for paper applications to be coming down. That is part of the conversion that we will have to process any new paper applications that come through. Currently, the state's been taking care of that. There are in-person trainings that are held up in St. Paul. The first, they opened up 8, and there's 16 people in each. Those filled up within the first day. So they added another 8 more classes. So Maria and I will be going on November 18th. There's very strict criteria that has to be met before you can actually enter a paper application, just because of the implications of doing it wrong. It's a lot harder to fix in the system than what we're used to right now. So, and then what we'll be able to do is come back and train the rest of the staff here to be able to do that. And Winona County has offered up their training labs, so we can have some of the MNsure mentors train the rest of staff, so we're not taking and sending people up to St. Paul. So that'll help. Unfortunately, we don't know when the applications are coming or what it means as far as numbers go. So we're just going to prepare to know how to do it and then kind of work from there. The other part is we have, with our medical assistance programs, clients once a year, just like we have here, have open enrollment where they can choose different health plans. The state, it's called a PMAP, prepaid medical assistance. We have UCare and Medica, and then for certain populations there is Blue Cross Blue Shield. But that'll be going out and clients will be getting those notifications as well. So there's a lot going on when we look at the population we serve. They're getting open enrollment for MNsure, they're getting open enrollment for their health plans. It is a very confusing process, so when this happens, we see our call volume go up as we try to help people kind of maneuver and work through the system. So we've got that going on. We also I sent in 2 cases for our 4E pretest. We have a federal audit coming up next year, so the state of Minnesota kind of goes through, does a pretest to see where weaknesses are, where they need to really focus attention. So hopefully we'll get those results back soon. Our 4E trainer will be down here on November 22nd, so hopefully she'll have a little insight to share with Tim and I on things we need to look at, do better, fix before the federal audit comes through. And then with the child support, they've adjusted very well to EDMS. We've had some, hang-ups as we're getting used to new technology. They're having to take laptops over to court now instead of their paper files. So trying to deal with that, and it's going very well though.
That's a good thing, yes.
It is. So they've worked well with that. And right now, they're working cases just like they have been. MNsure kind of affects them. They aren't getting medical referrals that they used to get. They're kind of sitting on hold, so it's waiting to find out what that is going to be. We're not sure what the implications are going to be. We are pretty sure we're not going to have to go back and work any cases that have been opened up, but we're not sure what it's going to mean going forward. So kind of just plugging away, doing what they need to do. So
and they're all still pleasant when you call up there. All the financial records and stuff. It's like you call with a question and everybody's so pleasant, and you know that how hard their job is.
Yeah. And we've had to do some with the front desk. We've had to call Kirby, who is our case aide for the financial. We're short-staffed right now, so we've just kind of readjusted some duties to help cover. We've got some experienced folks that are helping cover the front desk, so we're going through kind of a transition right now until we get back to full staff. So it's nice to have that experienced work staff to really help fill in and answer phones and greet our clients as they come into the office. So.
All right. Well, I'll be pretty quick today. The adult world, we have our main choices we kicked off on October 8th. The state had put this off since March, kicked off, and we've had 0 assessments coming as far as referrals. And so we're kind of sitting back waiting to see how it's going to roll out. Each of the 2 weeks, the state has given us emails, mechanisms that aren't working in the system already. And so we're just kind of holding back. We have met with public health to talk about how we are going to take assessments as they come in. We are going to do some cross-training. Historically, if it was a more medical or PCA that referral public health would take it, we would take more of the mental health, behavioral health things. That's not necessarily the option anymore. This is an all-encompassing assessment, so being that Mary T from over at Public Health only works 10 hours, we're going to do some cross-training so that social workers can go out if those calls come in and we need to kind of have that done. And so we'll kind of cover back and forth and see the assessments as they come in. We really have 90 days to kind of work out the kinks, how we want to assess things for people with disabilities as they come in. And then from there, we kind of make our own plan on how to proceed to fully implement that in 2015. That being said, again, we've had none first 2 weeks. So the rate management system for waiver workers is still kind of a pain for us. We got another email from the state that legislation changed DT&H again, which is kind of your work programs and daytime programs, and how they want us to bill it out. And so they sent us a big email. We have to go back and change the things they told us to change before, kind of back to what they were. And so we have those that social workers are thrilled about, entering stuff and data entry and all that. And so they're pretty happy. In the adult mental health world, we had our first peer support specialist graduate from the peer support program. That is a program that's dedicated to people that are in recovery of mental health to get trained to go back and help others individuals that are in crisis or struggling with their current mental health situations from that kind of internal perspective. It was a 2-week training. We had a very good candidate that went in. We kind of helped through the adult mental health funds to fund that. And hopefully she gets hired by one of the agencies in the area to offer some support in the area. It's a different resource that we've never had, and something that we'll probably utilize greatly. The kids world, we've started our CP/CW meetings with the schools every month, which we get together with teachers, nurses, therapists, and talk about child welfare and child protection issues. Typically that results in a higher caseload, more reports being made, things like that. And we are seeing that a little bit, especially in children's mental health again. Lisa's position that was supposed to be kind of half-time is kind of getting inundated with children's mental health referrals right now. A lot coming in as far from there, so we're running upper 20s, which is a lot as far as caseloads are concerned. And then we have a few CHIPS cases coming in, kids moving to placement, a few kids leaving, so that's kind of working itself out, but we're a little higher than we usually are right now. That being said, comparatively to the rest of the state, we're low as far as kids per capita that are in care. And then the good news, I guess, is to kind of help the child protection team. We do have 2 interns that will likely be starting the interview next week from the state, both of which are in the child welfare area. One's a 4E scholar, the other one's that's just their field of interest. So they'll come in and interview and hopefully start in January. And they're pretty much full-time. They're 4 days a week per semester. And so they're pretty intensive with us, and that helps us quite a bit. So hopefully we'll have 2 starting in January. That's about it.
A lot of good stuff.
Are our placement rates in facilities higher lately? It seems like that budget's running pretty high.
Typically when we place high-intensive kids. We don't do a lot of the mom and shop. I mean, we do a lot of relative stuff, and if they're not really in a relative placement, we don't have a lot of foster, either treatment foster homes or corrections kids like Girard, Maple Tree, those types of placements, which are really expensive. But they're, it's the amount they get, their per diem rates are really high. Even in terms of foster homes now, I know we have 2 kids that are placed through, and these are pre-adoptive homes, which is really good. I mean, so the potential is that they get adopted out, and we no longer obviously have that payment, and it's a good home, good family, but they're through a private agency too, so there's administrative fees on top of your typical DRC rates. So that is kind of where we're at now. We typically don't have a lot. I mean, kids that we place are pretty intensive kids. We don't place, we work with families right until the end, until we can no longer. And so, typically when we see placements, they're expensive placements. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's too bad you can't have insurance for it, huh?
Yeah. Any questions on that human service report? Very good report today. A little more positive, even Karen.
Karen's always positive.
No, she's the most frustrated of the group.
Oh, you just have to roll with it.
You do a good job. Very much so.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. I think before we move into closed session, we should go through the rest of the agenda so that people want to leave can leave. Consent agenda, Section 8 vouchers by county report. We all have copies of that. Bluff Country, Minnesota multi-county HRA minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unfinished business. Justin, you want to give the report on our meeting yesterday?
Sure. We had our frac sand study committee meet yesterday, and we got through the draft ordinance. The draft ordinance is getting passed up to our attorney to look over for legal language, and then when that comes back, we'll have a, sounds like we'll have a 30-day written public comment period, and then go back and assess some of the comments and see where they're at, and then move forward with the public hearing. So for right now, that's where it's at. Everything's carrying along, but progressing. So
Sounds good.
Is there, I know I've always been the band guy in this board. So is this our only option to vote on enforcement when that comes up, Justin?
Well, I'll tell you.
Can we still talk about banning or?
Sure. I guess it's, and that's a good question, Dana. We'll have the ordinance in front of us, and that will be, an option that's going to be looked at. I mean, if that's still an option to ban it, I mean, anybody can.
That'll be
make a
part of the
motion or
written
do
comment
anything.
period, I think, a little bit more. But we made it so regulating by volume and by setbacks that it, honestly, I can't see that we'd ever have a large industrial mine in the county because of those two things alone. But yeah, it's very
Are you
detailed.
saying it won't happen?
It won't happen volume-wise, size-wise, or setback-wise. I mean, I think one of the latest things we added was like, what, a mile between mines even. We
highly
don't have the
restrictive,
draft out for everybody to see till we get it back from the attorney. But then we'll have it in libraries, we'll have it in the website, and everybody will get a copy that wants one. And then you'll really see what the regulations are. So,
I don't feel we've done enough investigation on the banning side of it to see if we can. All we go by is one person's opinion, and it might be, his opinion might or might not be.
it wasn't really
It could be
one
biased.
person, though. We had a very.
I know at one time we all, at least 4 or 5 of us were on ban. I've been to meetings with all of you and you're all of that. And all of a sudden somebody says we can't do it. We banned e-cigarettes, no problem. Why can't we ban the industry?
We didn't ban them, we regulated
I
them
think-
as far
see,
as where they can be done.
Right now, I'm a ban guy. Right now, I'm gonna talk banning right up until the moratorium. Once the moratorium is over, then I agree you cannot ban, because then there'll be people in mines.
Then we'll have
mining.
no
And
ordinance.
everyone says you're gonna get sued, and we can get sued by, we haven't started anything yet. Now is our only opportunity to
But if we
say,
don't
I
have an
want to ban.
ordinance in place at all, we will have nothing but the original ordinance that
After
doesn't
the 15th
talk about
of
it
March,
at all.
I'll never say ban again, but up until then, I still think it's our only opportunity. I think about this all the time.
I felt we did a very good
And I
with the
appreciate
committee.
everything. I'm not bad-mouthing you guys on the ordinance. You did a great job. You did what you're told.
7 months of every
But I
single
still
week.
think we should have other decisions,
pass this
other
on.
opportunities to. I have a copy of a sample ordinance on banning and I don't know if anybody's ever looked at that.
The Florence Township one? we all have that.
I think it might be.
Pass this.
But it's written up for Houston. It's got Houston County wording and they've taken it and scratched it off. And I think if you have really, really good reasons, you can do it.
If you can justify it. With going through the committee, we haven't reached the point where we can justify a total ban. We can justify thresholds, we can justify setbacks, that kind of thing, but at least that's how I have felt through the last 7 months.
How do you feel about all the citizens petitions where they give us?
I'm just sending it.
That's quite a bit of people in our county who have a voice. needs to be heard, and for now,
Well, I think we
believe
gotta
Justin
take it
and I are the
under-
only one there speaking. I don't wanna put words in your mouth, Justin.
No, you're right. I've been on the ban side for a long time and even motioned to have parallel banning language get passed as well, so, and that's
Didn't
something that.
Dalma Key do it? Wasn't there a gentleman here in the spring with a,
We have a
What was
copy
that
of their
copy?
ordinance, and ours
They've
is
got the
much
ordinance.
stricter than theirs. They did not ban it, they have a new ordinance, which we have
you know,
copies of.
I'm thinking that with the enforcement thing, it's gonna cost us another position.
Well,
And who's gonna pay?
And we
I haven't
talked
seen
about
the
that,
wording
too.
on that,
Yep.
but I would hope the taxpayers don't pay that.
No,
right.
it wouldn't, we actually address that issue
I'm worried
too.
about that part of it too, the enforcement part of it.
Mhm. And that's coming up in 2 weeks. One of the meetings we have, that's one of the tasks that we set out for the committee
Mhm.
was to find out what it's gonna cost the county for these ordinances to be in place. Whether it be staffing or time spent or enforcement issues, whatever it is. So we'll have those numbers in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, this draft ordinance will go through, and then we'll have that public comment period, and then at that time, we can kind of assess things, see where those numbers are, what it's gonna actually cost to implement this, run it, do all that, and then we'll hear back from the public, take into consideration and, you know, see what, I guess, what all shakes down. Not saying that, ban is totally off the table, but for right now, we've got the ordinances that we'll try and figure out if that's gonna be, a good way to go or not, so we'll,
If a ban,
reassess.
yeah, if a ban is challenged and defeated, you better have a good ordinance in place.
Mhm.
There's just no question about it.
Yes.
And I think, I think still, go back to Jay's letter and his opinion about banning. And, I mean, this guy's prevailed in every lawsuit that we've encountered. Everything that's come at us, he's prevailed. I guess I don't want to doubt his opinion.
We did talk about, we don't want to go to the taxpayers, that we want to have if we need another position, like Justin said, they're gonna
Mhm.
come back with a
They'll pay
cost
for it.
analysis, and that would be part of the
Part of the licensing.
registration fees or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, we're working
Mhm.
on it, but no, it's not going to be
So this-
another
This
levy.
position doesn't start until we have an application for frac sand mine? The
No,
enforcement
because
part
we're
of it?
having all mines
that's-
will
they're
have
gonna
to
pay
have a
for it?
registration.
So it's confusing, and we'll get into this more detailed when we get the draft back
Yeah,
from
that's
Jay,
right.
but for a brief overview, one of the things that Jay had recommended that we do, and I strongly encourage the county to do, is get away from conditional use permits and go into an interim use permit. Right now, under a conditional use permit, that permit goes with the land basically from now until forever.
Right.
We're running into the issues where we have non-conforming mines or registered mines or whatever that don't fall into any of the new laws or ordinances because they were permitted way back when and they're quote grandfathered in. With an IUP or an interim use permit, it allows the county a little bit more authority to set deadlines and parameters in which there would be expirations on those permits so that it would allow time to come into compliance
Okay.
later on. Now, one of the things that we're talking about is having a biennial review, and every biennial review would have a fee structure to it. Part of that fee structure is to help out with the staffing costs at the county, because we're running into a department that's only a two-person department, which is doing solid waste stuff, which is doing feedlot stuff,
And everybody
all the
makes-
other zoning things, and when the mining side has been neglected for years. Not on purpose, but just because of staffing levels. So it was talked about that, you know, in order to try and bring Houston County back to I guess, to a comfortable level with the mines and the enforcement side of the mining and things, there would have to potentially be another person added in order to cover that cost and not be on the backs of the taxpayers. That part of that biennial review would help pay for that position, who's going to be doing the administering for, you know, checking the mines or for doing all the paperwork for all the reviews or any complaints or any new mining process. So that's where the funding would come from, would be for the administrative costs, and it would come from that biennial review. So there's a lot of things that we looked at It has been looked at over and over again. We're going on 3 years that we've had a committee of some sorts together to look at this and study it. So I guess I feel as far as the county has been, other than the banning side, as far as regulation sides go, this is probably I feel the most thorough and looked at that this has ever been, is through this committee. So we've looked at a lot of things, we've argued a lot of points. There's still some things that need to be ironed out, worked out, that still are kind of up in the air, but we'll get some public feedback on that, figure it out, and it gives us a good chance to say, this is what we have, this is where we're at, and give it to the public and let them, quote, poke holes in it and see if it holds water, and find those areas that we need to look at that maybe we've overlooked, or some suggestions of how to do something better. So when that time comes.
Before we adopt it.
Correct. So we'll have a chance with that written public comment period. We'll also have the public hearings, and if something gets brought up at the public hearing and it's a showstopper, we can always go back, reassess, reevaluate, work on some things. And not to say that something doesn't come up that we say, you're right, maybe a ban is the best way to go, I don't know. But for right now with the ordinances, I feel very strong that it's been looked at the most thorough that it ever has been looked at. And there's reasons and justifications for a lot of it. And like I said, there's still some things that haven't been quite hammered out the way we would like to, or some areas to maybe still polish out, but that's what we've got the public, that public comment period for. So.
And I'd like to respond, Steve. I'm not saying we shouldn't go against Jay, but I've already said this once, but I feel that this is the only time to ban it now is before it gets started. Once it gets started, I agree 100% with you.
The thing is, if what I heard this morning is true, that there are mining companies positioning themselves for extraction in this county, rail lines are being set up. If we put in a ban, it is going to be challenged. With that kind of interest.
We're in a moratorium right now.
We have a moratorium, but if we put in a ban, and there's that much interest in extracting in this county, that ban is going to be challenged.
Where with the
Without a doubt.
regulations we are setting forth in the,
I'm sure it will.
in the ordinance, we have thresholds, we have caps on it,
Yeah.
We have some control.
And reasons for it, some good reasons for it.
I just, I'd like to protect our county. It's a
Oh,
beautiful
Oh, we
county.
all do.
And we're on EDA, Judy, this will affect tourism. If we have
Well,
trucks
we
going
aren't
all
gonna,
over.
I can't see we'd ever have any larger industrial frac sand mines in this county, from what we've worked on. But,
Yeah, this is a big decision to be made, and I stay awake nights a lot of times thinking about it. And I don't want to do anything to harm the county or the taxpayers. And I'm sure you don't, none of you do either. I'm not accusing any of you of being that way. But it's a tough decision, and I appreciate all the hard work you guys have done on the enforcement one. I thought maybe we should also look at a ban ordinance, just to look at it and see have you ever seen a good ordinance written for banning?
the only copy we have is the Florence Township one. There's no county that
I just would like to
has
have
done it.
the other side of the issues too. But thanks for all you've done, and thanks for letting me talk.
It's the most talkative you've been in a long time, Dana.
It's because I'm very adamant about
Usually
it.
it's Justin that we have to shut up.
Easy. No, just kidding. It's true though.
I'll shut up again.
No, you're
No, don't do that.
That's good. Good
Well,
conversation.
we like the conversation.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think we should have some more discussions like this.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think the strategy sessions we had that one time was good.
I think we need
I think
those
we need
too.
to
I
know
found that very
where we all
important.
stand, and I think we got a lot out to right now. And thank you.
Yep.
Highway Department, we've actually postponed it till the middle of November, I think I have written down.
After election, yeah, get that out of the way.
Real
Excuse
quick
me.
with that, should we, I guess, we've got the Road auction coming up on Friday. We talked about having Steve run over there. I think it may be wise to have the board move that if it comes for a certain amount of dollars, do we throw our hat in the ring and, you know, I don't know if he's got a reserve on it or
Have
not.
you talked to
but-
Doctor?
I would guess that there would be, but you don't know.
Well,
It's
that's
been
the
for
thing, you
sale
know,
for
and if it's-
years.
and if it's not, it is adjoining the county property, and if you could get it for a heck of a deal, it might be an opportunity worth taking. I know it was appraised at like, was it 460, was it?
Yeah,
Something like that?
465.
And I know the county can only spend, is it 20 or 30% over appraised value, or whatever that number is, I can't remember. But,
And that I don't know.
Was
I
that
don't, Carol, do you
central?
know what that is, state statute-wise?
Never heard that.
Well, I know there is a deal that you can only spend over so much over appraised value. I know like when we acquire land and stuff like that for road projects that you can't just go and say, hey, I want to buy that for $12 billion because you're a friend of mine. You know, it's there to keep it in check, but we can check on that. But, you know, I'm just thinking that might be something that we find out what that is and get that number and, you know, have authorization that if that does come up for, you know,
I
a
would say
decent deal that,
it
you
might,
know.
yeah, my mind has got to be below the appraised value, you know,
Mhm.
before I decide.
Because I was doing
Go
some
on,
figures
but-
if it was, and like I said, I don't know, and maybe it doesn't pertain to county board decisions. I know road right-of-way, I know we're restricted how much we can pay over or something like that. But, you know, if it was 20% over 460, it'd be 552,000. So just looking at, you know, even taking that number, we've got that $600,000 sitting there that you get it for under even that amount, it might be worth looking at and solving some of our problems here and, you know, having a building turnkey ready to go for under $600,000
That would
might
be
be
the
worthwhile.
maintenance side of it
Mhm.
would be, you know, we'd have available some storage, cold storage.
Yeah, and the office
We'd
space
still,
there.
right, and we'd still need, but we would still need a facility in Caledonia.
Right, and that's what
No.
I'm talking, you know, you turn
Mhm.
into that satellite and we'd be looking at a smaller scale here because we wouldn't
Mhm.
need the big. So it might be an opportunity for the county to take into consideration. So I guess, you know, if Steve's gonna go over there, might be wise to allow that.
The only thing that I have issue with that is I would have liked more information as far as what it would cost to get it ready for us, you know.
Mhm.
That's
In
something.
addition to the cost of the
Right,
building, you mean?
in addition to the cost of the building, you know, we had it structurally looked at,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, and everything came back. And when we had that looked at, the number was something like, that number, oh, don't quote me, but.
Steve,
like
do you have that file?
Like 50 or 70,000 or something that,
I don't know if I do.
FCIT had looked at it from
Yeah.
an OSHA standpoint, and
Yep.
you might want to revisit that and just
yep.
Mhm.
take a peek at that
And it was-
report again.
Yeah, and it was minimal compared to, you know, some of that stuff that, you know, we look at it, even if it cost you, let's just say it cost you $100,000 to do some things, you know, even at $600,000 or $700,000, you could have a building ready to go, so.
I would think it wouldn't hurt to throw a low number in there. If you get it, fine.
Yep.
Do we tip our hand?
How can you say it without, as soon as we say it, it's a
Well,
public.
Yeah, you
And I
can't.
think that we would have to be, in order to do this the right way, we'd almost have to be able to bring it back to the board to approve.
Well, you could do something contingent on approval by the board after.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I just,
Yeah,
well, you wouldn't be able to have a contingent sale at an auction. They're not gonna
No.
say,
No.
oh, well, if you guys don't want it, we're gonna do a re-auction. So,
Mhm.
you know, it would be
Yeah.
an issue that if the board's, you know, and I guess, from my standpoint, looking at that building, when we went on tour of it, it's everything that the county needs. It was a former heavy equipment construction facility, so it's got all the amenities to accommodate the big, heavy industrial equipment that the county has. It's got the office space, it's got the cold storage, it has a lot of acreage that goes with it, and it's adjacent to the already existing county building. I don't foresee a lot of businesses that would, and I could be very wrong, but I mean, I'm sure there's going to be not that many big businesses that are looking for that size of a building in the Spring Grove area, I don't know what it would go for, but if it went for something under $550,000 or something, you know, I would see that would be an asset to have for the county.
I would, before I threw out a figure, just to be sure about it, I'd really have to sit, I mean, we haven't looked at that stuff for
Look
quite
at
a
it.
while. you
Well,
know,
the sales
numbers.
coming
The
up now,
sales
we
on
gotta
I
do,
know,
we
the
gotta
sales
do,
on
we gotta do
Friday, so I
something.
mean, do we need to come back and talk about this?
Have a special meeting on Thursday?
We can't put, we gotta
We
have
can-
10-day posting.
We can recess.
We can
We could
recess.
recess and come back.
I mean,
We want to
even-
make sure everybody's aware of it,
Yeah.
so it's, I mean, it would be an open meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You mean today?
No,
We
I'd
could,
recess and
or
come back.
tomorrow.
Well, let's do that. Was Jamie in here? No.
Jamie
yeah.
was here.
Yeah, I think she's.
And
just
I
next
actually
door.
had asked her about that. I also checked with Andy IT, and he gave an estimate of 50,000 to get a computer ready, bandwidth, everything cost to move it to Spring Grove.
Yeah.
So that gives us an idea
Well,
there.
I tell you what, let's do this. Why don't we recess? Let's come back, say like on Thursday, and in that meantime, we can get that MCIT document that we had.
Mhm.
Andy might be able to give us an estimate, just kind of see where we're at.
The numbers, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and see what
And I'll
that.
see what I can find out. I intend to go to Spring Grove today and talk to Mark if I can find him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and then let's come back and,
Mhm.
That'd be good.
and see where we're at. Because, like I said, even if you could buy the building, you know, figuratively speaking, if you could buy that building for $550,000, even if you had to sink, let's just say you sunk $250,000 into bringing it up to par,
Mhm.
you're only at $800,000, and we have $600,000 set aside, plus we've got that
Mhm.
wheelage tax money. You basically could have the issue solved for well under $1 million. So it would be something I would strongly,
Well, let's consider
Advocate.
recessing till
Yeah.
Thursday.
Discuss
I
further.
have to,
yeah, does that work? And we can kind of get some documents and then go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Looks like.
What,
I don't have any time Thursday.
You full up Thursday?
23rd. I should be around.
I have I couldn't meet till at least 2 on Thursday.
We could do
We could do
even,
2?
and probably the afternoon would work better, because then I can work for the majority of the day, and then just leave work early and come
Could
over
we,
to.
could we look at an evening?
Sure.
Just because.
no,
No,
Thursday night I
it's
got
even-
planning zoning.
No, but I mean, like even Wednesday
Sure.
Yeah,
evening?
That'd work.
That would really work good,
for you
actually.
that
guys?
works for me.
As far as I know, it's.
What
I'm
time?
just-
What
I'm-
time?
Like, I don't know,
Could we do it early?
yeah, like, I think I
You mean
can
like
get up
6-ish?
here by 5:30 on Wednesday.
The
if you
earlier
guys-
the better.
Mhm.
Because they have to stay.
Yeah,
I
they got,
know,
they gotta,
You want to do 5:30?
yeah, I can get up here by 5:30. It's just I have stuff
Thursday,
Sure.
Thursday and Wednesday.
I got
so
Thursday night planning
I
zoning.
can't,
Let's do that.
okay.
Wednesday, 5:30?
Mm-hmm.
Meet here.
I'm beginning to feel like a full-time employee here.
And the other option would be 5 o'clock in the morning. Robin,
The auction on
come in.
Friday, Steve? Auction's
I
Friday?
think Justin's
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I'll probably be up. If
I'm
you
up,
don't mind me
yeah.
bringing a screaming baby over. Is that, what, is that at noon or 11, or do you remember?
10.
10.
Yeah.
5:30 Wednesday.
Mhm.
Commissioner reports.
I have none.
Nothing, the Fraxon meeting, is it?
Yeah, I had negotiations with Tess And then wanted to bring up that the Able organization is interested in acquiring some land from the county property out by the school, approximately 4.5 acres. I don't know where we go from here. I don't think it's any big loss to the county. It's 22 acres total. Even if we did put a facility on there, we still don't need 22 acres. You know, so I'm looking at it as probably a good thing. They want to build as close to the school as they possibly can.
I'd be willing to
Yeah.
do that.
Have they gotten as far as, like, plans or a layout, like what they're thinking, or is it just?
I'm
kinda
not sure
on
if
the
they
surface?
have, if they've gone that far yet or not. They are actively looking
Sure.
for a property, and they like this one because of the nearness to the school
Sure.
and the access and so forth. So in their mind, it's a perfect situation. So I'll find out more if I can. If they've got a plan or layout, I'll bring that along
Yeah,
next
that'd be
time
great.
around.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Other than that, I have nothing else.
We can
That was my
closed
good
session
week
to
last
talk
week.
about-
Nothing like this weekend.
About an offer. We do have information here about when we can close meetings, and we can meet in closed session to discuss what we want to offer for a property.
Okay.
If you want to share that,
Oh,
pass it
that-
down, just
all
make
right.
sure I get that back.
In closed session?
I think that'd be a must.
I think we could probably meet in open, or in closed session to decide how high we would want to go.
Yeah.
Because that's something you don't want the public to
Okay.
know up
But
front.
we can, the
If
the rest
it's-
of the discussion can
Would be
have
open,
in-
correct.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Good thing. Okay. And Steve, you'll get more information on the Able
Yes. Mhm.
proposal. Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Judy?
No,
Monday morning, we have District 9 meeting in Preston at the courthouse,
At 9, correct?
8 o'clock, 8
Or,
to
I mean,
noon.
that's what I mean, yeah.
8:00.
8 to noon.
Yep.
And also, we got notice about, we can register for the AMC state meeting. Shar could probably register, is everybody planning on it at this time? December 7th and 9th, Sunday till Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Here's the thing, it is $350 registration per person, non-refundable, so if you want to wait until a little bit closer,
When's
that's
the
fine.
deadline?
Actually, I don't know what the deadline is. It just opened up, so we've got some time.
Yeah, I got my-
Let's wait, because I
Yeah.
might be gone that week. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna know until it gets closer.
Yep,
I feel more comfortable waiting.
I know I'm going.
okay, I'll put Judy down. Anybody else for sure going?
I'm going for sure.
Okay, Teresa?
What's the date again?
7th, I think.
That's that stuff.
Oh, I forgot to give you.
Oh, we go up on the 7th?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deadline, oh no, that's.
It doesn't start
Thank
till
you.
Sunday evening, so we can go up Sunday evening.
It's in St. Cloud.
I know. It's all day Monday and half day on Tuesday, well, till 2. Okay.
While we're late for our closed session, do we still want to finish this?
Yeah, we've only got a couple
Yeah, we
items.
have like-
Okay, approval of the claims.
I'll make a motion to approve claims, human services,
Second.
and licenses.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
MCI voting delegate and alternate.
So are you, who are our delegates, Justin and Steve?
Steve's the,
Yeah, I'm the delegate.
Justin's alternate.
He's alternate.
Okay. Do you guys, then we have to know that fairly soon, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I need to go. I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make it
Steve
work.
was planning on going?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You want to stay the alternate, Justin, or if you're not going to go, do you want to pass it on to someone, or?
Yeah, I can stay the alternate for sure.
Okay.
Okay, adopt resolution approving the gambling license. I think Shar sent that out.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution approving gambling license for La Crescent Fire Department.
Yep, got
Or
it.
Firemen's Relief Association.
Gotta have gambling.
Yep. Is that a motion, Judy? or-
Yes.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Okay. All right. No other business at this time, and we also are recessing until tomorrow, and now I need a motion to go into closed session. To adjourn this meeting,
No.
to recess this
Recess.
meeting to go into closed session.
Move to go into closed session.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll move to reconvene the open session.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The board met in closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D05 subdivision 2B for the preliminary consideration of allegations against an individual subject to its authority. We made it, and it's my understanding that the board is considering a motion to accept the investigator's recommendations and to remand the matter to HR for further implementation.
And I will,
Okay, yeah, I make a motion that we accept the recommendations as presented to the board and remand the disciplinary action to the HR department.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Keep in mind, this isn't to be discussed with the subject matter as well.
Mm-hmm.
The subject-
Motion to adjourn.
No, we have to recess.
Oh, we gotta
motion
recess
to
till-
recess till
Till Wednesday night.
Wednesday at
night
5:30.
Wednesday, 5:30. Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Decide how much we are willing to bid on it,
Mhm.
Yep.
right? I
That's
mean,
right,
you know,
yeah.
we know that we're gonna have to put in quite a bit to upgrade it. So we need to decide what our bid
Oh,
would
yeah.
be.
My
Basically.
number is 250, but it won't be accepted. It absolutely won't be accepted.
250?
Yeah, that was kind of what, the number that I kind of come to, it just because, you got to put so much money in it, It's turnkey in one respect, but,
But in others, it's not.
yeah.
And as I went over everything that I could find out, and I don't even know that I would go 250, because of what it's appraised at is for the building that's there. Then we look at what we need to do, and if you're trying to stay under a cost limit, I don't see how you can put all the money into the building that we need to. And then another part of me is going, okay, we've been working on this new county shop since '93. So
Yeah.
it's,
And we're the
How
board
many-
that's gonna do it.
but it's how many years later? So let's say we buy a building that's already 30 years old. Does that mean that we need to start planning for the next one right away? Because it can take 20 years or so to get to,
I had
you know,
somebody
in
stop.
reality, that's,
We still need something in Caledonia. I mean,
right. we
I had
still-
somebody
Yeah.
stop me last night to ask, and of course you get, I had lots of suggestions last
Oh,
night.
yeah.
But
Me
they
too.
were, basically, let's do one building at a time, what we can afford, and use the new property. And if we can sell portions of it off to help pay for it,
Yeah.
and do, a section at a time as we can afford it. That was suggestions I received last night, which isn't a bad idea. We even
No.
talked about that, do the machine shop in the store, in the garage first, add something else when we can afford it again, and not go to the taxpayers.
But you're still going to the taxpayers. The money, our money comes from.
Well,
levy
that's true.
from
Well, I
taxpayers,
think
you
she's
know.
saying no new tax dollars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
what we
that's-
really have to do tonight is decide what we would be willing to bid on it.
What's your number?
Well, I'll tell you this, I had 3 people between 2 yesterday and 1 this afternoon that I talked to, and they all kind of said the same thing, that, even, with that building, when you look at the grand scheme of things and you say, okay, this building will suit our needs for what we need, office space, maintenance, cold storage shed, okay. Buying the building right now, which is virtually turnkey with fixing a few things that's there, you could move into the offices and still have the maintenance shop or whatever. What all these individuals basically kept saying was, even if the county went and spent, figuratively, and this number's way too high, but they were saying, even if the county spent, say, $750,000 or $800,000, and even if you put $200,000 in it, you got $1 million, which is a lot less than $5 or $6 million or whatever a big new project is. So they're saying, well, even at that, you're saving, say $5 million. Well, even if that building's 30 years old and you get another 30 years out of it, by that time the jail will be paid off. So now you're going to free up those bonds for that $27 million jail. And at that time, if you wanted to and re-up and do things, it would be what would bridge that gap until that jail's paid off, which is true. Now, as far as how much money would you want to sink into it, like we said, we've got the one appraisal at 460. I know they're claiming that it's between 8 and $1 million, and that very well could be, but without the paper in hand, it's hard to make that decision.
Yep.
So, if it was my number, I still feel that that building would be a great purchase for the county, that it's adjacent to our already existing property. Would I feel comfortable spending? Yeah, I would feel comfortable spending, between that 650 and 750 mark, knowing that even if you put 100,000 back into it, you're still well under that $1 million mark.
Are we gonna have what we need by putting 100,000 into it? Have you,
Yeah, there's no office, the upstairs is not finished,
But
and
I
that's
mean, just like,
the IT side of it.
I
that has
wanna
to
know
go in.
where the 100,000 comes from. That's me. I wanna know
You
what.
mean you don't know where you can get it from, or
No,
what are you gonna do with it?
no.
Well,
I
what's it
wanna
get you?
know.
What do
Okay,
you get for
here's the
100,000?
building. Okay, this is what we have. What are you picturing the building being after putting 100,000 into it?
After putting 100,000 into it,
Yeah.
fixing up those things that are wrong that we need to bring up to get it up to code. Any wiring or IT stuff that we need to do in order to.
And that
make
Andy had
communicate
told me
with
would
her.
be 50, he told me 50,000 is
Yeah.
his estimate, because I asked him an estimate.
15 or 50?
50.
Wow.
Shar, how much did we put into that Meyer building? You remember, after it was purchased?
I could not begin to tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that sucker,
It was a lot.
a
It was a
ton of
It was
money.
a ton.
Just a
And
ton.
and it always is when you have office space and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, that was pretty much an open space.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To begin with,
Didn't we have to put in a roof on it too?
probably.
We
Yeah, I
put
don't
a
know.
lot into it.
And they put a lot of money into it.
But it
Well,
ate
and
up
it does
100
sound like this roof is leaking. Of course, you're used to working with leaking.
Well,
that.
it
Get more
says
fails.
potential, it said that there's possible water damage, but they can't confirm where it's coming from, so that,
But-
you never know where
But
that's.
would you go out to buy a used appliance that they said, it kind of looks like this wash machine might be leaking some water? Would that change the price of what you're gonna pay for it and just say, well, it's probably just that washer?
Well, I tell you
know-
what, yes, it would, and here's why. It depends on two things. One, how bad you need it, and B, what it costs for a new one. If the newest appliance that I am getting quoted on is $2,000, and I can get that one for $400, and I need a washer really bad, and I figure, hey, you know what, I could put $200 into this washer, be like brand new, get me another 5 years until I can pay off my car and then use my car payment and buy a new one, I might do that to bridge that gap. I very well could and have done that before. Even with vehicles, hey, this vehicle, it might need a tune-up, might need something. Sure, I'll take it on. I got it cheap enough. You bought it right, put some money into it, fix it up, drive it for 4 or 5 years, no payments. When you get something else paid off, now you can afford to buy that new car that you always wanted. So that's where I'm looking at it from is, it would be a good building to bridge that gap for, 20, 30 years.
I just don't know, and I really feel we should be bringing Brian into our conversation because
He's an engineer.
he's an engineer. I mean, he's our go-to guy. And he's the one who knows more about our county shop than anybody. So he should be a part of our conversation.
So come up a little closer is what we're trying to tell you.
But I really think, this is.
He
this
should
is
be part of
big.
it, of course.
He should be part
Be
of
like any
this.
department.
Yeah, any decision that we make that has to do.
And I
with-
think basically what we're trying to decide is how high would we go with our bid,
Yeah.
basically.
How high
We
would
all
we
know
go?
that there's gonna be fix-up cost.
Yep.
So, but we have
Conversion.
to know what we want to bid on,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm
Steve.
glad we're talking about, being from Spring Grove, everyone's saying this county needs to take a look at it and make an offer on it, so.
And that's
my
all
number,
we really wanna
I was
do.
thinking 500, because that's 100 over the assessed value. Thought that'd be fair.
I was thinking we
assessed
shouldn't
value
go over our
279.
appraised value
Well,
myself.
What's that, 425 that the taxes?
Four
Oh, that was
they pay
appraisal. That's an
appraisal.
appraisal.
The appraisal was
I think
465.
I was thinking 500.
What are they
And if it-
paying for taxes? What's it?
I think
appraised?
12,000,
Yeah.
12,000.
12,000 and change.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
I-
change.
Yeah, something like that.
It's
Yeah.
around
What?
that, 12.
Like if you go on Beacon, what they pay, no, but what it's appraised at on Beacon?
You mean their assessed
279
value?
and change.
The same as what they came out with?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
The appraisal
Oh,
was
okay.
465. The,
They're paying tax on
Tom has it
465.
at 279 and change, 280, let's just say 280.
Okay, 280 is what our assessor has it
Yeah.
at.
That's a lot of tax for 280, isn't it?
Non-homestead,
Yeah.
commercial,
Is that about right?
classification.
You're in the business.
Um, What's it, 12 acres, or?
13, I
somewhere in-
guess.
13
13.
total,
Was
yeah.
it, how much?
Okay, let's
13.
say
He's
that,
selling 10 acres.
let's say that they sold that building to somebody that was willing to pay $800,000 for it. Let's compare how much taxes we would gain if that building then went up in value to
Mhm.
that. If somebody bought it for that, we could take that money and that could be a substantial, that just automatically, those taxes go to paying off
Mhm.
the county shop that, I mean, that's a whole nother
That's
angle
another
to
way
look
of
at
looking
it.
at
The
it too.
taxes are divided up between the city, county, and school.
Right,
We
but
only get
Mhm.
a portion.
right,
Yeah.
but still, it's gonna, if they sell it for 800,000, then that's what your tax value goes up to. So that would be like
It'd be
almost
better,
4 times
right,
as
if it
much.
It'll
went
affect,
private.
it'll affect the city tax.
Yeah.
That's true. Now, just
Definitely
to
a
play
help.
devil's advocate on that, the flip side that I know people are gonna talk about is if the county bought that shop and then sold the 22 acres for housing development and an average house is $200,000, 4 houses, you'd be back to that. Anything above 4 is
That's
even
true.
more money
Covered.
You'd
on
make a lot
tax.
of
So
money
you'd
on
even be
housing.
making more money by
But
developing
here's
that.
another issue too, when you talk about developing that land and thinking it's gonna be developed into houses,
Mhm.
then we're also competing with the people who are stuck with all that land out by the high school that they can't develop.
Yeah, the
Now-
developers,
Now,
they're already there.
there's a law in Minnesota that you have to compact the area and sell the lots closest to the town before you can develop out further. It's been in Wisconsin for a while, but Minnesota is just doing it. I heard about it through the annexation and La Crescent meetings that I've been going to. And so, we don't even know that that land could be developed into houses because they have this stuff closer to town that the utilities are already in for,
Mhm.
that they have to sell off before, according to state law, what I've heard before that.
Mhm.
And they're not moving anything out there.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, so that, I mean, people would say, well, you can put all these houses out there.
That's not gonna happen overnight. You
No,
just know
that's not gonna happen. And when they say, well, look at all the houses that have been built out in this area over, right across the road, kind of.
Mhm.
Well, there's still a lot of empty lots out there yet, too. So there's a whole lot of area that would have to sell in order to make that even appealing to develop. Because the roads are in and everything to those areas.
Mhm.
So I don't think that looking at that property as a,
Well, we already got Able interested in it. You got one company interested,
We-
you had another company interested. And pretty
We
soon,
have
you
to
know.
come up, like
So-
I said, with a number.
I think we're
And
here,
right now
we're
we
here
have-
tonight to decide on what, if we want, if and
If-
how much we want to
I
bid.
think we have to make personally, a bid on it, just to show that,
well, no, we don't have to bid on
We
it.
don't
Because
have
if
to.
it starts out at 500,000.
No,
And
but
somebody
that's what
opens
we're-
the bid.
But
I know,
Teresa's
but
right,
what I'm
Teresa's
trying to
right, though.
say
You should
is-
have it, and then,
is
you know.
It might open
assessed-
over our bid, who knows?
Yeah.
It's assessed at 280,000. Our assessment, our appraisal was 465,000.
Mhm.
I would not go over that, personally. But I think we have to give a good faith number
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're willing to go up to. And then, we don't get it.
We don't get it, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
have to do something. I think we have to show.
Brian, what's your
I
thought of
personally think that.
500,000?
Okay, Brian, I'm talking too much, but
Well, I don't know if you can go over the appraisal or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, you were
Char just
gonna
got an
check on
email.
that.
Char just got it for us, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay,
There's no,
well, that solves that.
there's no limit.
Okay, the things for that building, I mean, yes, it's a nice building in a lot of ways.
And it's adjacent to your
The
other.
concerns that I have is one, office space. The office size is adequate for what we need, but you do need to fix up the upstairs to have office space. You know, currently it's not ready for people to be working out of the upstairs, and we'll need to use that upstairs for office space. So there's gonna be money for that.
Yep.
There is less room. There's a very small vault in that building for fireproof area. You know, you look at how much we have for storage out of our current building, plus the Meyer building stuff that we should all have at the highway department, it's way less over there. So we'll need to figure out something to do with that. And then we still need to have our trucks in Caledonia. So you still have the large vehicle storage that's going to need to be built, or something's going to need to be done in Caledonia. If you don't have an office space connected to whatever we build out there, you need to add a break room and a bathroom in addition to the large vehicle storage building. So either way, you have that cost. So if you got that building out there for $500,000, you spend another couple $100,000 remodeling it to make it fit our needs. IT stuff back in 2010, I think Andy said it was like $400,000 for IT. Now, if he said $50,000, great, that's much better.
Oh, and maybe I have it wrong. That's what I had wrote down.
The cost was really high, and I know that when
What's
they did
the expense
when they
on
did the
that?
Meyer building, it was almost $200,000, I believe,
Oh, my.
over 5 years
Maybe it was-
for it to hook that.
See, that's
connection.
when,
It's
I
hook-
said that
it's
to
hook
She
that-
wrote down a totally different figure. She
The
had
Meyer-
500,000, I had 50,000.
Once he
Meyer-
told us 30,000 too.
The Meyer building, I thought, was $191,000 for 5 years for the utility connection, to have that direct line between the Meyer building and the courthouse for security for
That
the
was for servers
the
and
IS
everything.
300 and, or not the IS 300,
Yeah.
anyway, for the network and the security and stuff. So you have, it was quite an expense there.
So it might have
And
been
maybe maybe that's
500,000.
gone down.
Okay.
So say that you have, 500,000 plus Andy's stuff, plus, remodeling. So, you're gonna be pushing 800 to $1 million, maybe a little bit over for that. You're still gonna have the large vehicle storage to do here in Caledonia, which we can maybe move one person from here to, on the maintenance site, from here over to Spring Grove. The rest of the maintenance staff you wanna leave in Caledonia. Our mechanic, you're gonna put him in the corner of the county, so he has longer trips to go out when there's a vehicle that breaks down on the road, or if you need to bring a truck in. So you're starting some inefficiencies there that I'm not real fond of. You also have, whenever you go to a meeting, coming to the courthouse for mail, or whatever it is, typically there's at least twice a day where someone from my office is coming over to the courthouse, whether it's myself for a meeting, or Sheila, or Janet, or Tom, or whoever. So start making those trips, hopefully you can reduce it down where it's not 10 trips per week, but 10 trips per week at 15 minutes per direction, that's half an hour per person times 10 trips, that's 300 minutes each week, plus the gas, plus the wear and tear on the vehicle. It adds up, along with, if it's more expensive to connect the utilities, of which, like when they did the Meyer building, they were looking at the cost to get that direct line. Even if it was $2,000 a month extra for utilities, plus you figure maybe $3,000 more for wages, gas, wear and tear on vehicle, you're talking $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year over 20 years. If you want to go 10 years, 10 years at $60,000 a year is $600,000 worth of lost efficiencies at different costs, and that's not accounting for inflation. So a little bit of savings up front can really hurt you on the back end. And if you look at 20 years, that's 1.2 million without adjusting for inflation, for increased fuel costs, wages, everything else. And that's the part that scares me the most, is the inefficiencies, a penny here, a penny there, and you're going into a building that's not designed to be exactly what we need with efficiency-wise, so you maybe lose some efficiencies there compared to building new in Caledonia. It really starts looking at that lower dollar building upfront cost could come and hurt you in the back end significantly. And, you know, that's a number that you guys need to weigh on, you know, what is that efficiencies, you know, what is the long-term implications? Personally, you know, that's where, you know, I always thought that 500,000 is maybe a number that would, you know, be a worthwhile investment for the county, you know, being right next to our shop over there. But the more that I think about what the numbers and the inefficiencies, you look at a 20-year projection with inflation and stuff, I ran some numbers and it shows that we're going backwards significantly in 20 years. And then you go beyond 20 years, you know, you keep going backwards. And at 20 years out, you have a building with minimal value versus having a building that has well over half its life remaining that has value. You know, I understand from the taxpayers' purposes, point, you know, it looks better to save that money up front, but.
Well, I think, you know, and we'll get back on topic, but for every point you bring up, I can counter it. And even with your numbers, when you say 1.2 million over 20 years, that means over 100 years, you'd still only be at 4.8 million, which is a lot less than 6 million. So even if you stretch that number out there, so I mean, it's, you know, and it's that issue where for everything you can combat it. The whole point is, if you could get the building at a reasonable amount of dollars, would it be worth it? You know, and that's the question. Is for, like you said, for even $500,000, even to bridge that gap. You know, let's just say you end up spending $1.2 million over the next 20 years. But then you also have all the bonds from the jail that are coming offline. So now you have that money freed up that, yeah, even though you spent $1.2 million over the course of the 20 years, plus the cost of the building, even if it was $2 million, you freed up all that money from the bonds. So now you could build that new complex and not stretch the taxpayers.
You know, what I look at is you're going to have 1.1 million plus out there. You're going to have another million plus here to tear down the existing building, to build a large vehicle storage that's going to fit our needs, along with a restroom and office space. You know, you're going to be about $2 million into it by the time you get done. You know, if you went 800,000 over here for a building with a bathroom and storage, which is essentially 1.5 times what Caledonia figures would take for their building, which is probably on the low end to say 800,000 plus another 300,000 plus to demo our existing building to get the site ready. So you're talking about, you know, you still have 1.2. So you're looking at 2 to 2.5 million to get us to where we need to be. Not counting anything with.
Why do you need a bathroom and an office in basically what becomes a satellite facility over here?
Every satellite facility we have.
You have one in all?
A bathroom and a break room.
When you
You know, I mean, nothing fancy.
They all have bathrooms?
Oh, yes.
Need bathrooms.
Yeah,
I don't know about you,
had
Dana, but when I gotta
It's
go, I gotta go.
I know.
That would
Me too.
not look good.
I didn't know you had a north
I think we
side.
need
thought they
to
were just
decide
places to
on
park.
how much we're willing to go
Okay, thanks.
and see if it goes.
I agree.
And Steve brought up 250,000, the assessed value was 280,000, and the appraised value was 465. I think we have to be somewhere
Yeah.
Yep.
between those numbers, you know, I mean, I,
250 is not gonna happen, I know that.
no.
I think a
No.
realistic number is
Yeah.
like what Steve said, even at that 500,000, yeah, it's a touch over appraised, but we're also adjacent property to what we
Yep.
have. We have,
Yep.
you know, there's a number there that.
Could we get rid of
Bill,
it,
but-
do you think, at $500,000 if we needed to?
If we
You think you
decide,
needed to resell it?
Yeah,
boy, it's been for sale for how long though?
yeah, but at $1 million,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
over $1
why.
million, you know.
And that's the
wonder-
kicker, is if,
Yeah.
That might be
if that's
something-
true, that there are comparables out there for that.
There might be
800 to
some-
$1 million, you very well could.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
You
other
could
thing
make
is-
money.
It's like somebody buying a fix-up house and
Yeah.
reselling it.
Very well could. You know, and the other thing is, it's just, you know, who knows what's gonna happen. He might have a reserve that's so
I think
astronomically
he's-
high.
yeah.
Maybe there's no reserve, nobody buys it, and he says, hey, you know what, you want 500, yeah, okay, I guess it's not worth it.
The ideal situation is if Steve got in for one bid and then went over our limit,
I'm not-
then we could say, well, we tried.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, like I said, I mean, even at, you know, a
I
number
think
even.
we all know that ideally we want to be in Caledonia as the center of the county, and it makes the most sense for our services. But I think we should probably go up to, I didn't want to go 500. I wanted to go no more than the 465 that it was appraised at.
Mhm.
But
If you go, like you said, 500 is a good faith bid.
And if it was me and this was my business instead of a county-run business, yeah, I would feel comfortable even going 750 for sure, just because I understand where the money's going.
I couldn't.
But
I couldn't do that high, no.
Yep.
I wouldn't buy a house that was that much over the appraised value either. I mean,
Well, in that appraisal, like we talked to, I think was
but I
was
mean,
low.
even the assessed
but, yeah.
value, I watch what houses and businesses sell for and what they're assessed
Mhm.
on taxes. I can't believe it hasn't been, that the assessment value of that hasn't gone up, other than the fact that it hasn't been being a used building and maybe we're, not on it, but it's, I don't know,
Well, and it's tough because that assessed value is such a funny thing because our house was assessed very low. The appraisal came back way higher. One year it was assessed $60,000 less than it was the year before. And I know I was talking to Tom about it. I said, how is that? They said, well, it's depending on the taxes and some of the assessed values get shifted around. So that number is kind of a tough number just to go by saying that that's the value of it.
well, and maybe they don't have turnover of houses in that area so that they don't have comparable worth
Yeah.
things. Like, in our part of the county, there's a lot of sales happening all the time, so you have that comparable worth out there all the time. So the houses sell for right about what the appraised value is. You don't see somebody spending, and if they do, you go, are you nuts?
Teresa, would you do 475?
I'm aiming for the 465, but, I mean, what's 475? I mean,
Yeah,
Mhm.
But I honestly would not go over that. And I understand Steve saying 250 because
It's not gonna happen.
really, but it's not gonna happen.
I don't think 475 is gonna happen.
Well, at
No.
least we
Yeah.
have something that we are willing to
Throw something out there.
throw something out
Mhm.
there. Would you be willing to go 475?
What about if you were, like, it was,
I would not go over that.
if you
though.
were, they're getting close to the end there in 475, somebody wants to go 5,000 more?
I would
You wanna
not, I would
stop?
not do that because we're gonna spend a lot of money fixing
Like,
it up
you
and
know when you
plus
get into
another
the end of the
building.
I know.
sale.
You'll end up stuck with it. Whatever it amounts to.
I don't know. I know that you guys all want to bid on it.
I think we
because
need to bid on it. I do think
But-
we need to do that.
Yeah.
I struggle with the fact if there was a place for sale in La Crescent, there was a place for sale in Spring Grove, and there was a place for sale in Caledonia. Would we feel that we would have to bid on all of them because they could meet our needs and they're 30-year-old buildings?
If there was 3 commercial buildings like this, you mean for sale? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if this was the same, if there was one for sale in each of the communities, I feel like we're under a microscope that we need to bid on this. And I don't like that pressure. I don't like people making us feel like we have to do something because I thought we had said before that we weren't going that way. And if it was that appraised value, I could maybe live with that. But even if it was 5,000 more than that, I'd be like, you might as well drive down the road and throw your money out the window as you're driving to Spring Grove, I just really think that we have to look at what's there and what we're gonna have to put into it and the fact that it's there and not here.
Yeah.
Use that number, because, an appraisal.
Well, I think we all know.
Appraisals are theoretical.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, it's based on past values, it's theoretical, so.
So what do you
it's a
think,
number.
Steve?
Well, the 475 doesn't sound bad to me. I don't think it's gonna happen.
But
My thinking is 500 or less.
No, I
How
won't
about
go to
something like that?
500.
Okay,
Less
let's
than
go
500.
475.
but
Do
it's
we
just
all
the
agree on
point.
475? Going once.
Well, and I'll tell you, like with the whole thing with the pressure and stuff, I guess I see it more, this is an opportunity to have that maintenance building and that office space next door to current land that we already own, and to be able to have that opportunity for a far less amount than what the other project is being proposed at. It's an opportunity that I don't think the county could just pass up and not take a serious look
And you can't
at.
make any, at this auction, you can't make any contingencies. The bid is how it sits, right? And
Yeah,
and that
as is.
fuel storage thing that sits right there. Well,
when we looked at a house that had just an oil barrel, their heat oil barrel was outside buried in the ground.
Mhm.
So when we got it looked at, they said you can't have them in the ground like that. And then you had to have the area tested for so far out from the ground.
Which we'll have to do.
For leaks.
It
yeah.
was an incredible amount of money, almost what the house was gonna sell for to get that done.
The cleanup, yeah, the
Right.
cleanup if
And
there is a leak.
So that's one other reason why I'd never go more than, that bothers me. You
So
know,
do we
those
all kind of agree
contaminations.
on the 475?
Are you interested in hearing what Andy has to say about the cost? I emailed him.
Okay.
He said, currently we are paying, what he's concerned about is not internet, it's a dedicated line that we need. Currently for the Meyer Building and the
Highway shop?
Highway Shop, we are paying $1,600 a month. And with that, we're never leaving the ACE network. He said adding the Spring Grove phone company into the mix is a wild card. So it's really difficult
Okay.
to give an amount.
Okay.
Do we need
Well,
a
I feel
motion?
that personally, I think we need, I know Judy
I
doesn't
just
agree
am
with
really
me,
struggling
but I
with
feel
this,
like we need to
knowing
at least
money
put in a
after money
bid
after money
because
after-
we've been
The
asked to
public
do
perception
that.
is that, you know, we should be
And I
there.
don't think we should go over, and I will go the 475 if the majority of the board wants to go 475. I would not go over that, because I know it's gonna be costly for us to do.
Mhm.
And we all kind of prefer to do something here. I mean, when we went on
That's
a
the
tour of
preferred,
it, Justin,
yeah.
remember that? Of course, he wanted $1 million then, or whatever he wanted, but
No, he was higher than $1 million.
higher than
Yeah.
$1 million. And we thought, no way. Would the board feel comfortable going 475, except for Judy?
Well, I'll tell you, it's between you, Steve, and Dana, because I would go more than that, and Judy doesn't want to go less than that. So you three hash it out.
I'll make a motion that we go up to 475 with our bid.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh my God, we're doing a 3-2 vote and it's different.
It's different. You guys can go out together now.
Although it's only 50-50 different, because even though it's 3-2, Judy and I still don't agree.
Okay, that is the end of, is there a motion to
Move to adjourn.
adjourn?
This is the most painful decision
I know it is a painful,
And I
we have
can't
a
even
lot
go
of
to the
painful ones.
auction and
We need a
go.
second to adjourn.
You can keep
We
the
need a second to adjourn.
Second.
second. Judy, you can go to the auction, outbid us, and then you want